an abandoned prison island. A president with unfinished business and a plan so bold it could change immigration enforcement forever. Trump just pointed at Alcatraz and said, "Open the gates." But is this about justice or something far darker? You're not going to believe what's coming next. And that's the story I'll bring you in 1 minute.
What do you say to those who believe you are taking the country down an authoritarian path?
Well, there you go again. Why don't you ask it a different way? Many people wanted to come into our country. Many people love Trump. I won the election. They didn't win the election. But let me just say, so when you make these statements about people say this, people, well, you know, they had their chance at the election and they lost big.
And we won big, didn't we? They love the authoritarian talking point. They continue to work on it. But this man is making changes. And he had a series of events happen over the weekend. And if you just simply followed what he was posting, you know where his mind was at. And it's consistent with what he's done in the past. But the major story today, the Alcatraz story, it's far more intrinsic than is being reported. I'm going to give you all the details of what this plan could actually entail for the country. But many moving parts, as always. The disturbing report of what the NIH was funding when it came to animal testing. And of course, the Beagles took center stage. But Trump and his administration ends all those experimentation. Trump announcing over the weekend he'll build a ballroom at the White House out of his own pocketbook. But we're not supposed to pay attention to any of the maneuvers, right? Everything he's doing is bad. We're just supposed to focus on how horrible the maneuvers he's making are, and the Democrats exploding and judges going insane. Well, that is all about to change. And while he's doing all this, he still has to deal with the international disaster going on. Iran's own data contradicts its explanations about the port explosion. Have you heard the newest portions of this story? Iran's web of lies unraveling thanks to port explosion. And why was it a web of lies? The explosion happened at a terminal used by Sina Holding, which is tied to, a foundation controlled by the Iranian government's supreme leadership. And they don't have to go through normal processes. They don't have to go through the customs process. Although there's no official explanation as to what caused the explosion. A forum and many people and experts within the region are now coming out and saying it was 2,000 tons of sodium perchlorate, which caused the explosion. What's that? Well, it's something found in rocket fuel, but it's not only the explosion, not only it violated customs or just bypassed customs. No, who put that material there? It was the epicenter of the explosion, killing so many. I know that Iran has been doing all kinds of sanction busting. And so in order to supply their own weapons programs, the surprising thing is the fact that this cargo, given that it's highly energetic material, was sitting right in the middle of the port. Well, nobody called Iran geniuses, right? But Iran supports the Houthis. And the Houthis they just hit someone else, didn't they? But how does this involve China? As I told you, everything does. It's just another story that goes to frame in what's happening. On Tuesday, the Treasury issued new sanctions on China and Iran over the transshipment of that same chemical, that same substance that was going to the Islamic Republic. So sodium perchlorate is used to produce ammonia perchlorate, which is a key ingredient to make solid fuel for ballistic missiles, which now ties into Israel. Who shipped it to him? China. We retaliate through additional tariffs. He's always got his eye at what results surveillance footage showing the moments the Houthi missile impact at Ben Gurion Airport. And we have another international conflict on our hands. Israel responds after the missile hits it, weighing what their ultimate response should be. Will Trump be able to hold him back now? It's going to be tough. It is Iran that is firing ballistic missiles at the state of Israel, and it must bear responsibility. The Israeli government must wake up and not return to the days of drizzling rain. The shooting at the state of Israel is bound to lead to a severe reaction in Tehran. The shipment brought in by China, now under heavy imposed tariffs by Trump. And what's happening? China's got some problems. Protests by unpaid Chinese workers spread amid factory closures. There's tape after tape because they're not receiving their pay, their benefits. See, those tariffs did have an impact, didn't they? China posts unexpectedly strong economic growth before the tariffs take hold, and now they have an issue. What's Trump doing? Not backing down. I will not drop tariffs to get China to the negotiating table because he knows the effect is already being felt in China. He has no reason to back down. No matter what names you call them, no matter how bad you say the administration is, they have a mandate for change from we the people. And Hollywood and actors and all these folks who suddenly decide they're impromptu politicians can just simply shut their mouths. But what's even worse is Eric Swalwell's absolute incompetency in his comment this year with, our least favorite, Jim Acosta, Sean Penn, and Eric Swalwell before we transition immediately into the primary story.
Consider worst case scenarios, and I do think it's a reasonable theory that Donald Trump is not unlike the spouse of someone who leaves him perhaps for another, who then murders their former partner because if they can't have her, nobody can. And I think Donald Trump in his solipsism may have that relationship with the world. Because
Jim, in the history of dictators or those who aspire to be dictators, there's never a succession plan, right?
Oh, because I'm going to take any intellectual thought from Eric Swalwell, let alone Sean Penn. I mean, just have another cigarette there, Sean. Because your political opinion means nothing to us. Because all they care about is getting in front of the camera, right? Because if they actually thought for a moment or listened for a moment, Trump doesn't have a secession plan. That was the word, right? Well, this clip will kind of go against that a little bit, won't it?
Anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat, but this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody, ideally a great Republican, to carry it forward.
Well, that clip wasn't so convenient now, was it? Because the only thing they seem to actually be thinking about is no law and order. None whatsoever. And it's why they go so crazy when Trump posts little things like this, right? Can it be so that judges aren't allowing the USA to deport criminals, including murderers, out of our country and back to where they came from? If this is so, our country as we know it is finished. Americans will have to get used to a very different crime-filled life, just like is happening in other countries we read in the news every day. This is not what our founders had in mind. No, it's absolutely not. So then he posts his photo. 12 hours later. Now there must be a larger plan here, right? Is this simply trolling? My friends, it is far deeper than that. And I'll go through my hypotheses of exactly what he's doing. And by the reaction from the left, all but calling it barbaric, you know, he's moving in the right direction. That's the story. I'll bring you in 1 minute. Before I get to my theory on all of this, I just want to say you guys are freaking amazing. So many of you joined as members here. So many of you provided super thanks, and so many of you subscribed to the platform. For that, thank you so very much. I worked all weekend, not 1 video, not 2, but 3, to assure I kept you informed on everything that's going on. If you've noticed, I have increased my frequency because you've requested me to do so, and your funding and your support helps me to continue to do that. The more you provide, the more I'm going to give back. And for those of you that moved over to Restricted Republic, joined our family there, Lisa Haven and my created platform just for you, thank you. I hope more of you will continue to join, because there we give completely unfiltered, unfettered news in the way you deserve it. All the references, all the resources provided at all times. Best part, every video we post on every platform is there. No commercials, no interruptions, because we're beholden to no one. We bought that platform. We own it, and we run it the way we want to run the news, and you deserve that. I hope you'll get there today. Annual and monthly subscriptions available. We'd love to have you there. Come hear what real news was meant to sound like. Restricted Republic. com. Can't wait to see you there today. I want to see your name on the list of new subscribers, but now let's get back to a little bit more in-depth of a story. This picture should be simple, right? Alcatraz, everyone knows what it is. He puts up his post on judges. How dare they do what they're doing? Followed shortly by rebuild and open Alcatraz. For far too long, America has been plagued by vicious, violent, and repeat criminal offenders, the dregs of society, who will never contribute anything other than misery and suffering. When we were a more serious nation in times past, we did not hesitate to lock up the most dangerous criminals. Now we just go after petty criminals. And yes, our incarceration rate is way too high. We have to focus on who's actually the dangerous criminal. My opinion now, that wasn't President Trump. And keep them far away from anyone they could harm. That's the way it's supposed to be. No longer will we tolerate these serial offenders who spread filth, bloodshed, and mayhem on our streets. That is why today I am directing the Bureau of Prisons, together with the Department of Justice, FBI, and Homeland Security, and there's a reason he put all those departments. I'm going to put this into my theory for you, to reopen a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. We will no longer be held hostage to criminals, thugs, and here's the interesting part, and judges that are afraid to do their job and allow us to remove criminals who came into our country illegally. And there you have it, the golden little part of the statement. The reopening of Alcatraz will serve as a symbol of law, order, and justice. We will make America great again. But how will he do that exactly? Simply by rebuilding and opening Alcatraz? No, there's a lot more mechanisms that have to be tripped before that happens, no matter what the headlines read. This on the New York Post: Trump orders reopening of notorious Alcatraz prison. AP putting this photo out, one of my favorites of the facility. Could it be rebuilt? Absolutely. Do we have the manpower to do so? Absolutely. But there's steps. And it involves what it is now classified as a huge tourist destination operating from 1934 to 1963 as a prison after that. But let's dig deeper now. It's more than just reopening the prison. Trump's already set precedents. While signing Lake and Riley Act, Trump says he'll send worse criminal aliens to Guantanamo. He's already set a precedent. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal aliens threatening the American people. Guantanamo's Bay's abusive history speaks for itself, the other side would state. And in no uncertain terms will put people's physical and mental health in jeopardy, so you know their argument now. It's a tough place to get out of. But what's tougher to get out of than Guantanamo Bay? Many would argue it would be Alcatraz. We don't want illegal criminals in the United States not a minute longer than they have to be. That was Pete Hegseth who stated that. At the time, Guantanamo Bay would be a perfect spot. We'll very rapidly get it up and running, but let's go through some of the mechanisms, some of the philosophy here. We know we're heading in the right direction because who comes out? None other than Nancy Pelosi. Alcatraz closed as a federal penitentiary more than 60 years ago. It is now a very popular national park and major tourist attraction. The president's proposal is not a serious one. Oh, sorry, Nancy, did we offend you? As a matter of fact, also coming out of California, President Trump shares intent to reopen Alcatraz as a federal prison in a social media post. Looks like it's Distraction Day again in Washington, D.C., a spokesperson for the governor said. California State Senator Scott Wiener, who represents San Francisco, called the president's notion absurd on its face. This major tourist attraction generates significant revenue for the federal government. Yeah, okay, because you guys are doing so well with your budget. Give me a frickin' break. If Trump is serious about doing this, it's just one more step in his dismantling of democracy. There they go. A domestic gulag right in the middle of San Francisco Bay. Boy, big statement. But let's go through what would have to happen. You know we dig deeper here. I'm not just going to give you talking points and sound bites. You'd have to reassign the property from a national park to a detention facility. Is that going to be tough? Not really. Trump would need to transfer jurisdiction from the MPS to a federal law enforcement or detention agency like the Department of Justice or Department of Homeland Security. That is what he put in his post specifically. If we want to go to it again, the Department of Justice, and Homeland Security. Very specific. My theory always comes with bases. How? This would likely require congressional approval or a controversial executive order. You think Trump's afraid to do that? Which could face immediate legal challenges, as every single executive order he puts out faces legal challenges. So could he do it? In my opinion, yes. There's some tougher parts now. This will be the more incendiary portion of this argument. He has many laws he has to contend with. The INA, Immigration and Nationality Act, the Flores Settlement Agreement limits detention of minors. 8 U.S.C. 1231 and 1226 governs detention before and after removal orders. And constitutional due process, which has already been in the news, right? How do you have constitutional due process if you are here illegally? Many arguing they still fall under the Constitution. Required change. Trump would need to ensure any Alcatraz facility meets minimum standards for humane treatment, access to counsel, and court access. That's fairly easy, which would be adequate medical care, safe living conditions, transport to immigration courts, or, there you got it, virtual access. Because if I'm going to have to give everyone trials, which I believe he is going to lose on, he is preparing for an interim detention facility. Civil rights groups would likely sue immediately to halt detention based on inhumane conditions or due process violations. Of course they will, but at that point, they've already got the criminals off the street. Physical renovation, I'll just dismiss this because when America puts our mind to it and the American workforce puts their mind to it, they can do anything. Likely billions of dollars and years of construction to bring it up to modern detention standards. Well, we can waste all the money that Doge is finding on a drop of a hat. We can waste it on fraudulent investigations. But when it comes to putting money into what can be one of the strongest detention facilities to house the initiatives that Trump has put forward, suddenly it's an issue? Give me a break. Funding authorization. Here will be the struggle because Mikey Johnson will have to help here. And so far he's done a piss poor job. Because they'll need Congress, who controls the purse, to appropriate funds to infrastructure overhaul, staffing and transportation, legal and court support. But there's a workaround. Wait, there's a workaround? He could attempt to repurpose military and emergency funds just like he did on the border wall. But let's go back to this statement here. Pete Hegseth, Defense Secretary, said his department could set up a detention center very rapidly. Oh, now doesn't that tie in to going against this funding and a potential workaround? So how legally vulnerable would that be? What does it matter to Trump at this point? Everything he does is legally vulnerable. Do you think that's going to slow him down? And of course, you will have our public and political resistance. You'll have the local leadership that I just read to you. San Francisco opposition, local leaders, including California Democrats and preservationists, would fight the plan in court and media. International optics using a notorious prison island to detain immigrants could damage U.S. foreign relations and stoke global criticism. And how is that different than what Trump faces right now? Are any of these counter arguments resonating with you? Because I think Trump could care less. If you're going to force me to hold a trial for every single person I choose to deport, then okay. An interim detention center may be the exact move Trump is making. So the bottom line here, he will need the help of Congress to control the purse unless he bypasses them by utilizing Pete Hegseth and the budget for defense. If he was to put this down in an executive order, will it be contested in court? Absolutely. Everything he does is. Major funding. Kind of goes back with the congressional argument. Legal justification for overriding civil rights objections. The Aliens, Enemies Act takes center stage. And that will be contested and has been contested in court. If he's to take this step, what will the Supreme Court of the United States rule? And time. Likely more than one term to fully implement. Well, that's interesting. You see, people continue to underestimate the power of the American people and the American workforce. We don't here. We've done things that nations once called impossible, and we've done it in rapid time. President Trump believes in the American workforce. He believes in we the people. He believes in the mandate for change we provided him. So my theory on this will be he will put through an executive order. He will force the court system even further. He will go to Pete Hegseth for funding if need be, because Mikey Johnson's proved ineffective in giving him anything he's been looking for. Some will call this a veiled threat to simply enforce the immigration laws that already exist in this great nation that are being, in his opinion, violated by the judicial branch. And he was specific in his commentary on that. So what's his response? To back off? Oh no. This man is a freight train of change. The exact freight train we've been looking for. So what do you think of this? Is it brilliant? Is it dangerous? Or is it both? Is Alcatraz a symbol of strength? Or something more sinister, as they want you to believe? Drop in the comments. Tell me what your thoughts are. And tell me if you would support seeing illegal immigrants detained at Alcatraz, or does it cross the line? It's your opinions that drive all future videos, and it's your opinions that matter to other Americans who watch these videos, who want to see what the common consensus is, and it truly drives conversation. And that is the key to reestablishing this great republic of the United States of America. The mainstream media tries to make it seem as if our voices are just small, tiny, and insignificant. Not on this channel. Blow up the comment stream. I'll put a pinned comment down there. I want you to put it underneath and continue to drive towards the change that we, the people, elected President Trump to push forward with. I love you all. Hope you enjoyed this. Can't wait to see your comments. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.